Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I'm in just a really good mood today. It's race day weekend in Indianapolis, which is just, it's kind of, honestly, just a crazy weekend here. Like, people are crazy drinking and crazy partying, and for me, it's kind of like a nice weekend to just relax and stay at home. We are going out to dinner tonight with my husband's aunt and uncle, and so I'm kind of excited about that. But other than that, I'll be around the house and just kind of doing my thing, you know, as a sober person. And I do go to things as a sober person, and I do participate a lot in life. I talk a lot about it in my vlogs. It was something that when I was in early sobriety, it was very conscious for me not to participate in going to parties, going to, like, you know, race day things, going to tailgating, going to concerts. Like, those were going to bars. Those were things that I did not participate in for quite some time, almost like between a year and 2 years. And when I did, I discussed it with my sponsor, and I only went with sober people. So, you know, now though, I don't really have that issue. I don't think much about it. I feel that the desire has been lifted for me to use on a daily basis. I really kind of check my motives before I go someplace. If I feel like this is kind of a sketchy, I'll tell you, okay? If I even think like this might be sketchy for me, and not so much because I think I'm gonna get in a situation and wanna drink, because I don't ever really feel that after 23 and a half years of sobriety. But if I think that I'm gonna get somewhere and it's too much, like it's just too much negativity, it's too much drinking and drugging or whatever, and I'm not gonna be able to get out of that environment, I don't go. And I was very, very apprehensive about it the first year that we went to Ultra Music Festival in Miami, and I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't like that at all. I was really surprised. Several years ago, I went to the race with my husband. In the middle of the speedway for the Indy 500, there's this huge party called the Snake Pit. And when I was growing up, it was like bands like Leonard Skinner, Marshall Tucker Band, bands like that Neil Young, I think, played one year, would come and they would play, right? And it was very biker-ish, and you know, it was like diehard race fans would come there and they would drink all day long and that kind of thing. Now, it's like headlining DJs. And it's in kind of a small area, so it's a lot of drinking and a lot of stuff in this small area, but it's these fantastic DJs, right? And I think Axwell and Grosso are coming this year, and some other people. And it's something that I would love to do, but I went 1 year, and it was so depressing to me because it was so much drinking of, like, even people that were under the age of 18, like 16-year-olds, and they just were like passed out in the it wasn't somewhere that I needed to go, right? And so I realized that I didn't want to participate in that anymore. But the following year, I really suffered from, like, FOMO, the fear of missing out, because I really wanted to go with my husband and our friends and be part of that. But at the same time, I knew I had no business being there because it just would really mess with me, you know? It's hard to sit in a 12-step meeting and see a 16-year-old or a 25-year-old or a 40-year-old come in and, you know, talk about some horrific shit that happened, but then on the heels of that, you know, go to something like this and see it happening, you know? So I try to not involve myself in situations where that goes on. In my vlog the other night, and I'm just sharing with you, like, where I'm at today to tell this story. In my vlog the other night, I was talking a lot about sobriety, and I was talking about my recovery, and I was talking about, you know, like, when I got sober and all this kind of stuff, and I said in there a line, and I said that relapse does not have to be a part of recovery. And so if you don't know what relapse is a return to old behaviors. A lot of people think that relapse just means going back to using, but it doesn't. You can relapse long before you ever pick up a drink or a drug, you know? If you've changed a lot about who you are through a 12-step program or through spirituality or religion, if you're returning to those old behaviors of anger, resentment, deceit, lying, all those kind of manipulation, then you've already started on the road to relapse. And just sooner or later, if you don't stop it, you will use, and then everything will fall apart. And really, using is the last part of relapse. And I think it's something that we don't talk enough about in recovery. Relapse is really a treatment word. It's not a 12-step word, honestly. Triggers, like when we talk about, you know, relapse triggers, that is also a treatment word. Those are psychological words that we use in therapy and treatment and things like that. Those aren't 12-step words. And, 12-step programs promise that if you do what we tell you to do, you will be recovered from, hopeless state of mind and body. And so, and they say the word recovered in the text. They don't say, I'm in recovery. Now, I say, because I was taught to say this, that I'm in recovery, because it's an ongoing cycle for me. But really, when I was discharged from treatment, okay, my medical charts at that time said that I was, why can't I think? It's the same thing that when people, remission, that I was in remission from, it was like cannabis dependence in remission, alcohol dependence in remission, barbiturate dependence in remission, opioid dependence in remission. And what that meant was that my disease was currently in remission, but if I returned to old behaviors, that could happen again. I could go right back to active opioid, cannabis, marijuana, obviously, alcohol, whatever abuse, cocaine, abuse or dependence. So it's important that I do the things that I need to do on a regular basis. Flash forward to last night, I was watching Netflix and I was in between 2 episodes of a show, and I went to go check my email, and I got an email from this 20-year-old young lady, and I don't even know what to say. She said I could read the email, she said I could use the email in here, but I'm just going to tell you guys about the email, and I'm going to tell you how I was affected by it. I get so many emails from people saying, I don't know what to do about my spouse. I don't know what to do about my brother. I don't know what to do about my mom, And I read a lot of emails of desperation. And I'm not telling you not to send me those emails. Thank you for those emails and telling me your story. Even when I don't get the chance to respond to them, I'm working through them, I promise. But I get a lot of those emails of people in desperation. I would say I have a few people that let me know how well they're doing. I have one young lady on Twitter that she tweets me every sobriety anniversary that she has every month, and every time she tweets me, last month she tweeted me, she goes, I forgot to tweet you this month, I just want to let you know. I'm so excited, right? And in a weird way, we're connected, we're family, we're family in recovery. So I got this email from this young lady last night, and she talked about how her parents sent her to treatment a year and a half ago or something like that, and she went out of state, and she was out in the middle of nowhere, and she was really pissed off that she was in this treatment program, right? And she met all these other young ladies, and she said that they then moved to another state, and I'm assuming that they all went to kind of a halfway house independent living program, something to that effect, because they all moved together to another state, and that they had all decided at that point that they were going to be sober together. Now, I know what it's like to get sober with people and say, we're in this, we're going to do this forever, blah, blah, blah. The people that I got sober with, the people that were my role models in my first year or two of sobriety, and I'm not talking about the people that had 10 to 30 years. I'm talking about the people that had 30 days, 60 days, the people I was in treatment with. I have no idea where they're at today, but I know that they're not sober. I do not see them in the rooms of recovery, and it breaks my heart because I sometimes wonder what their lives turned into, So I know what that feeling is like to be 60 days sober and go to a funeral for somebody that overdosed. I know what that feeling is like to call somebody's house and their husband or wife say, don't ever call here again because I kicked them out. They don't live here anymore because they went back to using. And in that feeling, in that moment, you start feeling very, very alone. She sent me 4 pictures of herself when she was with her friends, and they just were she was so happy in these pictures, And they were when she was in treatment, and she told me about a friend of hers that her friend, she went out and her friends brought her back and left her on the front porch, basically just to die. The girl overdosed. And then she said she was watching my video where I said relapse does not have to be a part of recovery. And she said in there that a friend of hers said, I'm going to drink and I'm going to go smoke. And she said had she not heard that, she might have gone out. She didn't say it was because of me. She didn't say she would have. This is somebody that has built a toolbox of recovery that is helping her to stay sober on a daily basis. But she said had she not heard that relapse does not have to be a part of recovery, that she might have gone out and used. My mother got sober 6 months after I did. She never went to treatment. She never went into deep counseling or therapy. She had done that years before, and they would always tell her, we can work on your depression, we can work on your anxiety, we can work on all these issues. You must get sober first. Addiction is a primary disease. If we don't work on the addiction, we can't deal with any of the other stuff. And when she went and she got sober, it started fixing all this stuff for her. My mother was a die-hard 12-step program person. She didn't even believe in treatment programs, and I worked in one. She was very proud of me for what I did. She was very proud of me for working in a treatment program, but we would get in a lot of discussions, and she would say, other than detoxing somebody, no, I don't believe that somebody needs treatment. I believe you detox somebody, and then they go to a 12-step program. They get a sponsor, they read the text, they do the work. They do not need to go to treatment programs. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that 100%. You know, I think that independent living programs and halfway houses are phenomenal. I think there are a lot of sketchy ones. I think there's a lot of them that allow some people to use and get away with it and other people not. I have dealt with some really shitty halfway houses, even here in Indianapolis. You know, there's only like one halfway house in Indianapolis that I would ever tell a friend to go to. There's only one treatment program in Indianapolis that I would ever tell a friend to go to, and I think those two would surprise people if they knew. And, you know, and I base that off of what I've heard from my friends and people that I know that have gone to those places. But I wanted to get on here and share this girl's message, you know. She's over a year sober, and she's like, she said in her message, I love sobriety. Sobriety is fun. It's a great life. And I want that come out because it's a message of hope. And it's a message to let other people know, okay, you're going to get past the hard times. You're going to get past going into treatment and not wanting to be there. I hated my first couple weeks in treatment, and then I didn't want to leave, you know. You're going to get past all that to the point where you're going to have this amazing life. And I emailed her this kind of long email actually back, like instantly I emailed her back because it was like, it popped, she like emailed me at like, this is 4:24 in the morning, true story. She emailed me if she wants to comment on this video and share it below, she can say, that's true. He emailed me back like within a minute. I literally like opened my email and it was 4:24 a.m. I was just about to watch my last show. I know it's late. Anyway, and then her email popped up and I read it and I just responded to it immediately. And I told her that it really meant a lot to me and it like she had totally made my night, right? And I said, you know, I just came back from my best friend's house. This is something I always say in my sobriety birthday or Tanya's sobriety birthday. My best friend Tanya, who allows me to talk about her sobriety. And I'll probably get emotional saying this. But you know, 23 years ago, I came from Tanya's house last night. We sat on her porch and we talked and we drank a Diet Coke and it was real fun. And that's about as exciting as it gets some nights for me. And I love that life, you know, in comparison to what I used to have. And it was a beautiful summer night last night in Indiana, and she had just set up her porch, and she had all of her couches out, and she was so excited to show it to me. And I often say, when I talk to people about my friendship, you know, that it's not just I have a good friend, a good Judy named Tanya, that when I got sober 23 and a half years ago, they told me, if you do what we tell you to do, you won't use again. If you do what we tell you to do, there's a pretty good likelihood that you will fix the family relationships in your life. If you do what we tell you to do, your life will be repaired and you will have a better life than you do today. And all of that has come true and so many blessings on top of that. But what they never said to me was, if you do what we tell you to do and you continue to come to meetings and you open yourself up to other people in sobriety and you allow yourself to be vulnerable to other people that will love you until you love yourself, you will meet the greatest friend you have ever met in your entire life. I wouldn't have my marriage today. I wouldn't have my house. I wouldn't have my dogs. I wouldn't have YouTube. I wouldn't have anything, and I definitely wouldn't have my best friend had I not stayed sober one day at a time. And I said to this young lady last night, minutes lead into hours. Hours lead into days. Days lead into weeks. And before you know it, you have years of sobriety. I love you guys, and I will talk to you later.